Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown and AEW Rampage review. Smackdown tonight was from the Nutter Center in Dayton, Ohio, while Rampage was taped from the Yuengling Center in Tampa, Florida. And Smackdown tonight, this was their go-home show for SummerSlam, which is tomorrow night. And Smackdown tonight, it was just a very mediocre show. Of course, as a go-home show, these go-home shows are absolutely meaningless. They don't get you hyped for the show, for the premium live event. So just no excitement going into SummerSlam tomorrow. Although the SummerSlam card looks very decent, in my opinion. But tonight on SmackDown, we had LA Knight, versus Sheamus. We had Ridge Holland and Butch, the Brawling Brutes. They ended up taking on the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Austin Theory was in action, and he ended up taking on Cameron Grimes to the moon. And we also had Zelina Vega versus Iyo Sky, which, we've seen these two go at it already. And the main event, we had Jey Uso versus Solo Sikoa. But overall, SmackDown tonight, very mediocre show. It did nothing to hype you up for SummerSlam tomorrow. Like I said, these go-home shows are absolutely meaningless. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. SmackDown opened up tonight with LA Knight. He ended up walking down to the ring. He got a huge pop from the crowd there in Daytona. He got on the mic and he ended up saying that SummerSlam is the biggest party of the summer. And he looks ahead and sees a 25-man battle royal. He ended up saying that he thinks of the different competitors that might be in it. So LA Knight ended up calling the competitors a group of stooges. So here are the competitors that are going to be in the SummerSlam Battle Royal, which I don't know if you knew this, but the Battle Royal is sponsored by Slim Jim. And what does the winner of this Battle Royal get? Might as well get a supply of Slim Jims. So here are the other participants. Sheamus. And also, of course, LA Knight. Santos Escobar. Karrion Kross. Matt Riddle. Grayson Waller. AJ Styles. Shinsuke Nakamura. And The Miz. So there are some of your participants in this SummerSlam Battle Royal. 25 men are going to be in this Battle Royal. But do you all care? Should call this the Who Cares Battle Royal. Sponsored by Slim Jim. And the winner gets nothing. The winner, like I said, should get a supply of Slim Jim, have arranged Slim Jims down in Ford Field in the ring for the winner of that Battle Royal. So you could take a whole bunch of Slim Jims and say, oh, I just got a supply of Slim Jim for win the Battle Royal. Yeah. Make arrange Slim Jims in Detroit. And the match is not even on the pre-show. There's no pre-show match scheduled. The Battle Royal is going to be taking place on the main card. Should be taking place on the pre-show. So, LA Knight ended up saying everyone has a chance, even The Miz. So, he ended up looking at Sheamus, and he thinks about the business that happens tonight. He ended up saying that Sheamus has done it all, a champion. He ended up saying that he hasn't been beaten by someone with everyone saying, L.A. Knight, yeah. And then out came Sheamus. Sheamus was accompanied by Ridge Holland and Butch. And we had the first match. It was LA Knight versus Sheamus. This wasn't a good match, in my opinion. So the match got underway. Fans were behind LA Knight. And LA Knight, a little bit of news, he is now number 1 in merch sales. He dethroned Roman Reigns in merch. And WWE doesn't want to push this guy to the moon. They don't want to give LA Knight a big push because probably Vince McMahon is not huge on LA Knight. And he's just waiting for that steam to fizzle out with the crowd being behind LA Knight. WWE doesn't want to push new stars. They don't want to push new stars because they don't want other stars to dethrone Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock. No, they don't want another superstar getting over, just like those stars that I mentioned. They don't want that. But yet, look at LA Knight. He's over with the crowd. Everybody loves him on the mic. He's a good promo. And he's number 1 in merch sales. And WWE doesn't want to follow up on this. They don't want to give LA Knight a big push. So, Sheamus delivered a knee to Knight. Sheamus then delivered a headlock on Knight. He up run to the ropes. He knocked LA Knight down with a shoulder block. Sheamus went to the ropes. LA Knight came back, delivered an elbow to Sheamus' face. He stomped on Sheamus in the corner. Knight went to the ropes, and both guys end up colliding. They fall to the outside of the ring. And so out came Santos Escobar. Then out came The Miz. Then out came Grayson Waller. And then Karrion Kross along with Scarlett. And then AJ Styles with Mia Yim. And so LA Knight and Sheamus continued to fight, but they were fighting on the ring apron. So Sheamus ended up getting LA Knight up on his back, and Sheamus delivered the white noise to Knight on the apron. So Smackdown went to commercial. Then when Smackdown came back from the commercial, both Sheamus and LA Knight were going out with right hands. We still had some of the competitors in the Battle Royal still out there. They surrounded the ring, and I'm like, am I watching a one-on-one match or am I watching a lumberjack match? Because Santos Escobar, Miz, Waller, Kross, Styles were all out there still. So we had LA Knight or Sheamus end up running the ropes, but Knight delivered a slam to Sheamus. LA Knight ran to the ropes. He ended up hitting a jumping elbow drop to Sheamus. Knight lifted Sheamus up on his shoulders, and he slammed Sheamus face first onto the canvas. Knight ended up going for the cover, and Sheamus ended up kicking out. Knight ended up going for the BFT, but Sheamus ended up rolling Knight up for the cover. Knight kicked out. Sheamus then delivered the Irish Curse backbreaker to Knight. He lifted Knight up on his shoulders, and he ended up getting on the second rope. He ended up hitting Knight again with the white noise. So Sheamus ended up going for the cover. Knight kicked out. Sheamus got Knight in the Texas Cloverleaf, but Knight ended up getting to the ropes. Sheamus climbed up to the top rope. Knight ended up jumping onto the top rope, but both Sheamus and Knight ended up slipping, and they fell to the outside of the ring. So we had the guys who are in the Battle Royal. They were arguing. Out came Austin Theory, and he knocked Santos Escobar down. Of course, next week on SmackDown, Santos Escobar is taking on Austin Theory for the United States Championship because, of course, Santos Escobar ended up beating Rey Mysterio. So then we got a brawl on the outside by the competitors in the Battle Royal, which the brawl looked very rushed, in my opinion. So Sheamus and Knight were back in the ring. Sheamus grabbed Miz and dragged him onto the ring apron. And so Sheamus ended up delivering the 10 beats of the bottom to the Miz. LA Knight rolled Sheamus up, and Sheamus kicked out. Sheamus was going for the bro kick to Knight, but Knight moved out of the way, and Sheamus delivered the bro kick to the Miz, knocking the Miz off the apron. So that led to Knight hitting Sheamus with the BFT. He ended up going for the cover, and there you go. LA Knight ended up winning the match. And since LA Knight won tonight, I have to say, he will not be winning the Battle Royal tomorrow. Which I hope I'm wrong on. But overall, this wasn't a good match, in my opinion. You had the competitors in the Battle Royal being out there, surrounding the ring. I'm like I said, am I watching a regular match or am I watching a lumberjack match? And as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had the OC. We had Styles and Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson. They were fighting with the Brawling Brutes. You had Sheamus and Rich Holland and Butch there. Adam Pearce was also there. Adam Pearce ended up telling them if they wanted to fight, to take it to the ring. So Styles and Sheamus were face-to-face with each other, and pretty much that was that. So we had Gallows and Anderson taking on Ridge Holland and Butch, which that was the next match. So before that, Michael Cole led us to a video package of Cody Rhodes against Brock Lesnar, and it was the same video package that we saw on Monday Night Raw on Monday. So hopefully this is the last match between Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. There is no story in this and no explanation as to why Brock Lesnar attacked Cody. We got nothing out of this. So then we had Gallows and Anderson versus Ridge Holland and Butch. This was a very meh match in my opinion. So the match got underway. Ridge Holland and Gallows started the match off. So both guys delivered some right hands. Gallows delivered a fallaway slam to Ridge Holland, which was followed up by a splash in the corner. Carl Anderson ended up tagging in, and Anderson Gallows ended up double teaming on Ridge Holland. Carl Anderson ended up going for the cover. Ridge Holland kicked out. Carl Anderson ended up grabbing Ridge Holland, but Holland ended up knocking Anderson down. Holland ended up hitting Anderson with a double underhook suplex. So then Ridge Holland ended up taking Butch. So Butch and Holland double teamed on Anderson. Butch twisted Anderson's fingers and he stomped away on Carl Anderson's arm. So Butch stomped on Anderson in the middle of the ring. Butch attacked Anderson's left arm, but Anderson ended up dragging Butch and made the tag to Gallows. So Gallows and Anderson double teamed up on Butch. Gallows ended up going for the cover. Ridge Holland came in and broke up the pin. So SmackDown with the commercial. So then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Ridge Holland ended up hitting Carl Anderson with a clothesline in the middle of the ring. Butch tagged in. Butch knocked Gallows off the ring apron. Butch delivered some kicks onto Carl Anderson, and he delivered a kick to his face. So we had Butch end up going for the cover, and Gallows ended up breaking up the pin. Ridge Holland ended up coming in. Ridge Holland ended up hitting Gallows with a backdrop. Anderson ended up kicking Holland to the outside. Butch delivered a kick to the side of Anderson's head. So then out of nowhere, the Street Profits end up coming in. The Street Profits, Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, they were wearing suits. They were wearing nice, cool suits. And they end up attacking both the OC and also the Brawling Brutes. So the match ended in a no contest. So Street Profits are now heel. So post-match, the Profits continue to attack both the OC and the Brawling Brutes. And the Street Profits end up standing tall. And they walked onto the ramp. And out came Bobby Lashley. So the fans were chanting Bobby. They were cheering loudly for him. They were happy to see Bobby Lashley. And pretty much that was that. So it looks like we're looking at a new Hurt Business with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. But can you imagine having Bianca Belair turn heel and side with Bobby Lashley and the Profits? Because, of course, her husband is Montez Ford. So it would make sense for them to have Bianca Belair with them if WWE decides to turn Bianca Belair heel, because Bianca Belair should go heel. She's getting very stale as a babyface, in my opinion. Bianca Belair needs a change. She needs to be a heel at some point. But really am interested in where, this is going with the Profits and Bobby Lashley. Hopefully they don't fuck it up, because I am intrigued where this is going to be headed. And then we saw Charlotte Flair. She was on the boat, and she kept talking about how she will win the Women's Championship at SummerSlam, which that will possibly happen. And then we could all moan and groan at that. Watch. They're going to put it on Charlotte Flair. And as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Paul Heyman was in the ring. Paul Heyman ended up doing a shtick saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman." So Paul Heyman ended up asking how it has come to this. How this is not what the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, wanted. Heyman ended up saying that if you want to place blame for what happened to Jey Uso, who you will likely not see again, everyone can blame Jey Uso. And Paul Heyman was like, now the former right-hand man, the former main event, Jey Uso, wants to push the tribal chief to this. He kept saying what happens to Jey Uso tomorrow won't be his fault. It will be the accountability of the tribal chief. Heyman ended up saying that there will be no remorse, no regret, no plea for forgiveness, because when Roman enters the ring at SummerSlam, he will be entering a match called Tribal Combat. So Paul Heyman then pointed to the Tyshawn, a video package aired hyping up the Tribal Combat match. We saw clips of, the NOI family, with Rikishi and Alpha and Sikoa. And they were talking about the Red Ulafala, the lay. So Paul Heyman narrated through this package, and he had mentioned how one man can be the undisputed tribal chief. So a pretty decent video package. So then we went back to Paul Heyman in the ring. Paul Heyman ended up saying that Roman is the reigning, defending, undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Paul Heyman ended up saying that Roman is a tribal chief and has been champion for nearly 3 years. And that will never be Jey Uso. Paul Heyman ended up saying that he could stand and say that's not a prediction. That's a spoiler. But the only spoiler he can give for tomorrow night is that. And then he got interrupted by Jey Uso. Jey Uso came down to the ring, got a big pop from the crowd. Jey got into the ring. Fans were chanting Uso to Jey. Jey then walked around the ring. Jey ended up telling Paul Heyman that he is right. Tomorrow night, Tribal Combat is happening. Jey ended up saying that he will light him up with one of the sticks, the chairs, and he's the head of the table, and we'll go through one. Jey ended up saying that Paul Heyman forgot to mention that the passion he sees in front of him, he is bringing it tomorrow. He ended up saying that the spirit of his ancestors, his family, the culture, he is bringing all that tomorrow. Jey ended up saying that he was going to beat Roman Reigns, become the new tribal chief, and the new WWE Universal Champion. And then out came Sol Sikoa. Paul Heyman held Sol Sikoa back. He ended up telling Jey what Sikoa is trying to say is that he screwed up now. Jey ended up telling Sikoa that he will forgive him and that the mind games won't work. And that all he does is take orders. And we have Paul Heyman end up telling Sikoa that the same thing he used to tell him. Paul Heyman began to speak as Sikoa looked at him, and Paul Heyman ended up looking freaked out at that. So he ended up asking Sikoa if he can speak with him. But Sikoa stood his ground, and he looked at Jey. Sikoa ended up telling Paul Heyman to get out. And then Jey ended up hitting Sikoa with a super kick. Sikoa then fell to the outside. And pretty much that was that. Paul Heyman was looking scared at what just happened there. And pretty much that was basically that. But overall, I thought this was a good promo here. For the hype going into the Tribal Combat match. So should be a good match tomorrow night at SummerSlam. So hopefully it'll be a good match. And then we saw clips of Rey Mysterio against Santos Escobar from last week. And Michael Cole in commentary ended up saying that Rey Mysterio suffered severe whiplash and that he is recovering at home. And that from what we saw last week, with Santos Escobar winning because Rey couldn't, go on competing after that spot outside of the ring. So then we saw Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton was backstage with the United States Champion, Austin Theory. Kayla Braxton ended up asking Theory about his match against Santos Escobar next week. Austin Theory ended up telling Kayla Braxton that Santos injured his mentor, his role model. He ended up saying that he hopes Rey is watching because next week when he beats Escobar, he will dedicate that win to Rey Mysterio. So he ended up saying he has to focus on tonight because he has Cameron Grimes. And just like Escobar next week, Grimes will get his dreams crushed. So that was what Austin Theory had to say. But we all know next week that Austin Theory is going to retain the title. I mean, it should have been LA Knight put in this position. LA Knight should have been in the United States Championship title picture. But no, WWE didn't want to do that. They wanted Rey Mysterio. So, last week we had Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar. Rey, of course, got, injured. And he's recuperating at home. And so now, next week we got Escobar versus Austin Theory. And Austin Theory, like I said, is going to retain the title next week. Then we had Austin Theory versus Cameron Grimes. To the moon! And this was just a quick match here. Match got underway. Theory delivered a takedown to Grimes. Escobar showed up on the ramp. But Escobar ended up getting stopped by Adam Pearce and officials. And that distracted Austin Theory. And Grimes ended up hitting Theory with a cave-in. He ended up going for the cover. But Theory's foot was on the ropes. And Theory rolled to the outside. Cameron Grimes threw Austin Theory into the barricade. And then he threw Theory back into the ring. Grimes delivered a crossbody into the cover on Theory, but Theory ended up kicking out. Grimes delivered some kicks to Theory, as he ended up run to the ropes. So both Theory and Grimes end up colliding. Grimes turned it into a cover, and Theory ended up kicking out. So Theory at the end of the match ended up hitting the A-Town down to Grimes. He ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Austin Theory ended up winning the match. Post-match, Santos Escobar ran down to the ring. He ended up delivering the Phantom Driver to Austin Theory, and that was that. But overall, very quick match. This was a squash match. Austin Theory picking up an easy win. In WWE, it looks like they got nothing for Cameron Grimes. Job to the moon! So then we had the Grayson Waller effect. Grayson Waller was in the ring. He ended up saying before he goes to Detroit and wins the SummerSlam Battle Royal, to which he even said, sponsored by Slim Jim, he has 2 guests for his show. And his guests were Iyo Sky and Bayley. So Iyo Sky and Bayley end up coming into the ring. Grayson Waller ended up asking Iyo if she is going to cash in the briefcase tomorrow at SummerSlam. And Iyo was going to talk, but then she got interrupted by Bayley, to which Iyo did not look too happy that Bayley interrupted her. So Bayley ended up calling Grayson Waller an idiot if he thinks the genius in the bank is going to tell him their strategy. Bayley ended up calling the fans idiots, and Grayson Waller ended up agreeing with Bayley that the fans are idiots. She ended up saying that Iyo will defeat Zelina Vega tonight. So then we hear Shotzi laughing across the speakers. Grayson Waller started to laugh, saying he did that. Grayson Waller ended up saying that Bayley is scared of Shotzi. And he ended up asking Bayley why she is scared of Shotzi. Bayley ended up telling Grayson Waller never to do that again, and that she is not scared of Shotzi. She ended up saying that Shotzi has not shown her face once. So Shotzi's music ended up hitting, and Bayley started to laugh, and Grayson Waller ended up telling Bayley that, oh, this isn't me. So Bayley started to panic. She ended up telling Iyo to protect her because Bayley thought that Shotzi was on the tank. Because, you know, like I said, we had Shotzi's music ended up playing, the tank came out, and Bayley thought that she was on the tank. But apparently, Shotzi appeared in the ring behind Bayley. So Bayley ended up going for a right hand. Shotzi ended up knocking Bayley down. And Shotzi took out a pair of clippers, which the clippers were louder than the crowd in this segment. So Bayley rolled to the outside of the ring. She brought into the back, and Shotzi was following Bayley. She was laughing. So Iyo ended up staying in the ring, and who was on the tank was Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega was the one who was in Shotzi's tank, and pretty much Smackdown went to commercial. Then when Smackdown came back from the commercial, we had the match, Iyo Sky versus Zelina Vega. We've seen these two go at it before, so it was a quick match. Zelina Vega delivered a forearm to Iyo. She ended up slamming Iyo face first to the turnbuckle. She climbed the second rope, ended up hitting Iyo with some punches. Zelina delivered a clothesline to Iyo. She ended up going for the cover, and Iyo kicked out. Zelina climbed the second rope. She ended up hitting Iyo with the Meteora. She went for another cover, and Iyo ended up kicking out. You had Shotzi and Bayley. They were shown fighting on the ramp. Shotzi took the clippers out as both her and Bayley were fighting. So that distracted Iyo Sky, who was on the top rope. Zelina ended up grabbing Iyo and ended up hitting her with a powerbomb. And then she followed up with a code red on Iyo. Zelina ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Zelina Vega ended up winning the match. But quick match this was. Well, it looks like maybe we'll begin a hair versus hair match between Shotzi and Bayley, even though Shotzi ended up shaving her hair because, of course, she only did that is because her sister has cancer. So, but prayers to Shotzi's sister. And then we had the main event. Jey Uso versus Sikoa. And the match got underway. We had Sikoa deliver a shoulder tackle to Jey. He ended up knocking Jey down. So Sikoa ended up throwing Jey to the ropes and knocked him down with a forearm. Jey ended up rolling to the outside. Sikoa ended up slamming Jey into the commentary table. And Sikoa cleared off the commentary table. Sikoa ended up going to slam Jey. Jey landed on his feet, and he delivered a super kick to Sikoa. Jey got into the ring, and he landed a suicide dive onto Sikoa to the outside. And then Smackdown went to commercial. Then when Smackdown came back from the commercial, Sikoa was in control of the match. He ended up delivering a right hand onto Jey, which was followed up by a Samoan drop. Sikoa ended up running towards Jey in the corner. Jey moved out of the way, and he delivered some right hands to Sikoa, which was followed up by a kick. So Jey ended up delivering a right hand to Sikoa, but Sikoa came back and delivered a clothesline to Jey. Jey rolled onto the ring apron as Sikoa ended up grabbing him. Jey ended up hanging Sikoa up on the top rope. Jey was up on the top rope, and he landed a crossbody onto Sikoa. He ended up going for the cover, and Sikoa kicked out. Sikoa then ended up grabbing Jey. He ended up going for the Samoan spike. Jey ended up ducking that, and he ended up delivering a spear to Sikoa. Of course, Roman Reigns' finisher, the spear. So Jey climbed the top rope. He landed the Uso splash on Sikoa. He ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Jey Uso ended up winning the match. Post-match, Sikoa got up. He ended up attacking Jey from behind. Jey rolled to the outside, and Sikoa ended up throwing Jey into the ring post. He then grabbed a chair, and Jey ended up hitting Sikoa with another super kick. Jey then grabbed the chair. He repeatedly ended up hitting Sikoa with the chair. Jey stood on top of the commentary table, and he celebrated as Smackdown went off the air. But overall, I thought this was an okay match between Jey Uso and Sikoa. Headed into the Tribal Combat match tomorrow at SummerSlam. But overall, very mediocre Smackdown this was. Moving on to AEW Rampage, which Rampage was a okay show tonight. And we had the Hardys, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy and Keith Lee. They ended up taking on Kip Sabian, the Butcher and the Blade. Anna Jay was in action, and she had taken on Skye Blue. We had Swerve, Strickland, and AR Fox taking on Logan Cruz and Tyshawn Perez. And the main event, we had Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley. They ended up taking on Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor in a parking lot brawl. And the winners of this match will get to face the Lucha Brothers this Wednesday on Dynamite. But overall, Rampage was an okay show tonight. So Rampage opened up with a trios match. Keith Lee and the Hardys, Matt and Jeff Hardy, they have taken on Kip Sabian and the Butcher and the Blade. Of course, Ethan Page was out there and Penelope Ford. So the match started off with Jeff Hardy and Kip Sabian. Kip Sabian ended up landing a shoulder tackle to Jeff. Jeff fired back with a Russian leg sweep, and he delivered a leg drop onto Kip Sabian. Jeff then tagged in Matt. Jeff ended up landing a splash on Kip Sabian off of Matt's back in the corner. Matt Hardy delivered a body slam and elbow off the middle rope. Matt Hardy was looking to go for the twist of fate, but Kip Sabian ended up sending Matt Hardy crashing into the corner, and Kip Sabian ended up tagging in the Blade. The Blade delivered a chop to Matt Hardy. He then whipped Matt Hardy into the corner. Matt Hardy ended up responding with a side effect to the Blade, and he ended up running the ropes. The Butcher ended up taking a cheap shot at Matt Hardy from the apron, and we had the Butcher end up tagging in. He ended up jamming his knee into Matt Hardy's throat. Butcher then delivered a chop, but Matt Hardy ended up managing to execute the 3 Faces of Deletion to the Butcher. Jeff Hardy ended up tagging in, and he delivered a double axe handle to the Butcher, but the Butcher fired back with a boot to Jeff Hardy's midsection. Jeff Hardy was then tossed out of the ring. Kip Sabian ended up going flying off the ropes, and he ended up dumping Jeff Hardy back inside. So Rampage went to commercial. And then when Rampage came back from the commercial, the Butcher ended up whipping Jeff Hardy into the corner and tagged in the Blade. So at this point, Keith Lee was not in the match at all yet. It was just Matt and Jeff Hardy just working on Kip Sabian, the Butcher, and the Blade. So we had Kip Sabian end up tagging in, and the Blade end up delivering a chop before Kip Sabian end up landing a senton onto Jeff Hardy. Butch ended up tagging back in. He ended up landing the backbreaker and sent Matt Hardy crashing off the apron. So Keith Lee finally got into the match. He delivered a right hand to the Butcher's midsection. Kip Sabian, who of course is the legal man, he jumped on Keith Lee's back. Keith Lee ended up not going down. He ended up sending Blade crashing into the Butcher, and Keith Lee ended up catching Kip Sabian with a snapmare and tossed him on top of Butcher and the Blade. Keith Lee then ended up landing a power slam on Kip Sabian. He ended up going for the cover, but the Butcher ended up breaking up the pin. Matt Hardy ended up leveling the Butcher and delivered a twist of fate to the Blade. So Kip Sabian ended up looking to go flying, but he was caught by Keith Lee. Keith Lee ended up catching him with a double chop, and then he tagged in Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy then delivered a swanton onto Kip Sabian. He ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Keith Lee and the Hardys ended up winning the match. Overall, I thought this was a decent trios match here with Keith Lee and the Hardys and Kip Sabian, Butch, and the Blade. And then we saw a video of the Kingdom of Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. And they were reflecting on their relationship with Adam Cole. So pretty much basically the Kingdom ended up saying that Adam Cole was a guest at Mike Bennett's wedding. And they were there for him when he became champion. But when they needed him, when they needed Cole, he was nowhere to be seen. So pretty much that was basically what the Kingdom had to say about Adam Cole and their relationship with him. So then as Rampage came back from the commercial, we saw the Young Bucks and the Hardys. And they were confronting one another. Matt Hardy ended up challenging the Bucks to a tag team match this Wednesday on Dynamite. So Matt Jackson ended up accepting. So Wednesday on Dynamite, we're going to be seeing the Young Bucks versus the Hardys. So that should be a good match there. And then we had Anna Jey versus Sky Blue. Anna Jey was accompanied by Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. And when they came out, they glared at Chris Jericho over at the commentary table. You know, because they're not happy about what happened on Dynamite on Wednesday. So, the match itself, it was a meh match here. We all knew that Sky Blue was going to lose the match anyway. But the match started off with both Anna Jey and Sky Blue locking up. They went back and forth with some submissions. Sky Blue ended up firing off some forearms at Anna Jey. She ended up delivering a shoulder tackle. Sky Blue followed up with a super kick, but Anna Jey ended up landing a forearm and sent Sky Blue into the top turnbuckle. So Anna Jey then delivered a spinning back heel kick, which sent Sky Blue to the outside. So at the end of the match, we had Sky Blue end up delivering Skyfall onto Anna Jey. Angelo Parker ended up popping up on the apron. Sky Blue ended up decking Angelo Parker, and that allowed Anna Jey to sneak up on Sky Blue and lock in the Queen Slayer. Sky Blue ended up tapping out. So there you go. Anna Jey ended up winning the match. Overall, very meh match this was. We all knew that Anna Jey was going to win it. Sky Blue, why do they keep giving her TV time when she just loses? So then we went over to Tony Schiavone and Paul White. And they were at the site of the Parking Lot Brawl, which the Parking Lot Brawl was held at Daly's place in Jacksonville. They have announcing that Pac is injured, and the winners of the match will face the Lucha Brothers this Wednesday on Dynamite. So then we had the Mogul Embassy. We had Swerve Strickland and AR Fox versus Tyshawn Perez and Logan Cruz. And this was a squash match. We had the Mogul Embassy, Swerve Strickland, AR Fox win the match. Swerve ended up delivering a brainbuster to Perez, and we had AR Fox delivering the 450 splash, and there you go. Swerve Strickland and AR Fox ended up winning the match. Squash match this was. Main event, the Parking Lot Brawl, with Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta versus Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley. And this was fucking awesome. This was a great match here. So this took place in Daly's place in Jacksonville. Of course, you had cars set up. You had a crowd there. And the match ended up getting on the way. We had all four guys just throwing right hands at one another. Chuck Taylor ended up sending Claudio face first into a car. Moxley had a fork in hand, and he jammed a fork into Trent Beretta's head, and he delivered a series of kicks to Trent. Claudio then delivered a belly-to-back suplex to Chuck Taylor. Trent Beretta ended up delivering a splash off a car to Jon Moxley. Claudio then ended up hitting Trent with a car hood, and from the fork from Moxley to Trent's head, Trent was bleeding. So Trent and Chuck Taylor ended up sending Claudio into one of the car trunks, and Chuck Taylor ended up grabbing a car spoiler, ended up hitting Moxley with it. So Chuck Taylor ended up taking a shot at Claudio and smashed Claudio using the car hood. Claudio and Moxley ended up doing the same to Trent Beretta. Claudio then powerbombed Chuck Taylor on top of Beretta and also the car hood. So Claudio then delivered the swing to Trent Beretta. We saw Moxley end up retrieving a blue trash bin. So Claudio ended the swing on Beretta, and he ended up sending Beretta crashing into the trash bin. Chuck Taylor ended up making the save by hitting Claudio with a street sign. And we had Chuck Taylor ended up doing the same to Moxley. So we had Chuck Taylor end up picking up the fork, and he jammed it into Moxley's head. And he then set up one of the guardrails on a car, and Chuck Taylor was looking to send Moxley crashing through the guardrail, but Moxley fought his way out, and he superplexed Chuck Taylor onto the guardrail. So then Rampage went to commercial. Then when it came back, Trent Beretta ended up hitting Claudio with the street sign on top of a car. Trent ended up setting Claudio up on a guardrail, which was held up by 2 car doors. And then Trent ended up delivering a senton off of the guardrail onto Claudio. Moxley then delivered the paradigm shift to Chuck Taylor on top of a car. Trent Beretta ended up charging at Moxley, but Claudio ended up pulling Moxley out of the way, and Trent Beretta was sent crashing into the side of the car. Claudio then ended up planting Trent Beretta on the roof of another car. So Claudio ended up climbing up to join Beretta, and he was looking to powerbomb Beretta on top of the car, but Trent ended up finding his way out, and he delivered a belly-to-back pile driver. Moxley hopped up on the roof of the car. He locked in the sleeper on Trent Beretta. Beretta fought his way out of the sleeper, and Beretta delivered a forearm. Moxley did the same thing. He delivered a forearm, and so Moxley and Beretta went back and forth. Moxley ended up knocking Beretta off the car, but Beretta got back up, and both Moxley and Beretta were delivering right hands to one another on top of the hood of the car. Moxley ended up planting Beretta on the windshield with a double underhook suplex, which was crazy. Chuck Taylor grabbed a flaming torch that was wrapped in barbed wire, and he looked to hit Moxley with it. But Wheeler Yuta ended up appearing. Wheeler Yuta ended up daring Chuck Taylor to hit him with the flaming torch that was wrapped in barbed wire. Moxley ended up sneaking up on Chuck Taylor, and he grabbed the flaming torch out of his hand, and then Moxley ended up hitting Chuck Taylor with the flaming torch. Yuta then jammed a screwdriver into Chuck Taylor's neck. But then out of nowhere, Trent's mom, Sue, appeared with her minivan, the white minivan, and Orange Cassidy was on top of the minivan. Orange Cassidy delivered a crossbody off of the minivan, but the Blackpool Combat Club ended up overpowering Cassidy. Castagnoli ended up sending Cassidy's leg bouncing off the hood, and then Claudio got in Sue's face. Yuta then delivered a DDT to Orange Cassidy on the hood of the minivan. Claudio opened the driver's side of the minivan, and he demanded Sue to exit her car, to which Sue ended up doing. So Trent Beretta ended up looking to attack the Blackpool Combat Club, but they ended up sending Trent crashing into the side of the minivan. Claudio then ripped the driver's side door off of the minivan as Yuta and Moxley smashed the windows and also the back windshield. Moxley then delivered a curb stomp off the roof of the minivan to Trent Beretta, and Claudio ended up pulling Beretta in place on the front windshield. Claudio then ended up pinning Trent Beretta, and there you go. The Blackpool Combat Club ended up winning the match. Post-match, Claudio sent the guardrail into Sue's minivan. Moxley then ended up letting the air out of one of the front tires of the minivan, and that was how Rampage went off the air. Overall, this parking lot brawl was freaking awesome. A fork was being used, a screwdriver used, the cars were being used. It was bloody, but overall, really enjoyed it. But Rampage, okay show tonight. But anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's SmackDown and AEW Rampage. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, which maybe I'll do a SummerSlam review, which that'll be up tomorrow. So I'll possibly review SummerSlam maybe. But if not, see you all on Monday for Monday Night Raw. So hopefully I get a chance to put out a SummerSlam review for you guys tomorrow. We'll see. But anyways, I'll see you all later.